In a significant geopolitical development, China's President Xi Jinping has publicly urged former President Donald Trump to abandon the controversial Golden Dome Project, citing its strong offensive implications and the potential risks it poses to global security. This statement, made during a recent diplomatic engagement, highlights the growing tensions surrounding military advancements and defense strategies in the Asia-Pacific region. The Golden Dome initiative, which aims to enhance missile defense capabilities, has drawn sharp criticism from Beijing, with officials asserting that its implementation could compromise the security of all nations involved. A spokesperson for the Chinese government stated the security of all countries should not be compromised for the sake of military ambition. This sentiment reflects China's broader concerns regarding the militarization of the region, particularly in light of increasing U.S. military presence and alliances with neighboring countries. As tensions escalate, analysts are closely monitoring the implications of Xi's remarks. The project, developed by L3Harris Technologies, aims to bolster defense against potential threats from North Korea and other regional adversaries. However, its perceived offensive nature has led to fears that it could trigger an arms race, prompting neighboring nations to bolster their military capabilities in response. The call for Trump to reconsider the Golden Dome Project is not merely a diplomatic gesture, it underscores a significant shift in China's approach to regional security. Experts suggest that Beijing is increasingly willing to engage in direct dialogue with U.S. leaders to prevent further military escalation. China is signaling that it is prepared to take a firm stance against any initiatives that it perceives as a threat to its national security and regional stability, commented Dr. Mei Ling, a geopolitical analyst. Moreover, recent intelligence reports indicate a lack of trust between China and North Korea's militaries, complicating the dynamics in an already tense landscape. Analysts believe this mistrust could affect future collaborations and strategies, driving both nations to adopt more defensive postures. As the situation develops, the international community will be watching closely. The outcome of Trump's decision regarding the Golden Dome Project could set a precedent for future U.S. China relations and influence defense policies across the Asia-Pacific region. The potential for dialogue, as hinted by Xi's remarks, offers a glimmer of hope for de-escalation, but the underlying tensions remain a formidable challenge. Looking ahead, the interplay of military strategies, political ambitions, and diplomatic negotiations will be crucial in shaping the future landscape of security in the region. As both nations navigate their complex relationship, the world awaits to see whether cooperation or confrontation will prevail. In a pivotal moment for international relations, a recent trade pact between the United States and China has initiated a significant rhetorical shift within China's media and political landscape. On May 21, 2025, the Chinese state-run media began to adopt a more conciliatory tone towards the U.S., a stark departure from the prior aggressive rhetoric that had characterized their communications in recent years. This transformation is not merely a matter of diplomatic niceties, it reflects deeper strategic calculations by the Chinese government as it seeks to navigate an increasingly complex global economic environment. The trade agreement, which has been described as a landmark deal by officials on both sides, aims to reduce tariffs and expand market access, thereby fostering cooperation in various sectors including technology, agriculture, and finance. Analysts suggest that the pact is a response to mounting pressures from both domestic and international fronts. China's economy is facing headwinds from slowing growth and rising unemployment, noted Dr. Lu Yang, an economist at Beijing University. By easing tensions with the U.S., China hopes to stabilize its economy and attract foreign investment. The rhetorical shift is particularly notable in the official media narratives, which have historically framed the U.S. as a strategic competitor. Now the tone has evolved to emphasize collaboration and mutual benefits. For instance, state-owned outlets have begun to feature articles highlighting the shared interests of the two nations, such as climate change and public health, which were largely ignored in the past. This change is seen as an attempt to cultivate a more favorable image of China abroad and to reassure domestic audiences that the government is taking pragmatic steps to secure economic growth.
However, this newfound emphasis on cooperation does not signal an abandonment of the Chinese Communist Party's CCP ideological underpinnings. Rather, it reflects a tactical maneuver to reinforce the party's legitimacy amid economic uncertainties. The CCP is prioritizing stability over ideology in this phase, remarked political analyst Chen Wei. They understand that economic prosperity is a key pillar of their rule. In addition to the trade pact, President Xi Jinping's recent remarks on high-quality growth underscore this strategic pivot. During a speech delivered shortly after the agreement was finalized, she stressed the need for sustainable development and innovation as cornerstones of China's future economic strategy. We must embrace high-quality growth as a pathway to revive our economy and maintain our global standing, she asserted, signaling that while the tone may soften, the goals remain steadfast. The implications of these developments extend beyond economic interests. By fostering a less confrontational narrative, China seeks to mitigate geopolitical tensions that could escalate into broader conflicts. As the U.S. and China navigate this delicate relationship, the potential for collaboration in areas such as cybersecurity, trade, and climate change becomes increasingly relevant. Looking forward, the world will be watching closely to see if this rhetorical shift translates into sustained policy changes and tangible outcomes. The success of the trade pact will likely hinge on both nations' ability to manage their complex relationship while addressing domestic challenges. As China positions itself for a new era of engagement, the effectiveness of this approach will not only shape its economic trajectory but also redefine its role on the global stage. The coming months will be critical as both countries work to build on this momentum, with the potential for either renewed cooperation or a return to the more combative rhetoric of the past. In the face of escalating global tensions and economic uncertainties, China's leadership is taking decisive steps to fortify its economic framework through the upcoming five-year plan, announced by President Xi Jinping. This strategy underscores a commitment to achieving self-reliance and addressing vulnerabilities exposed by the ongoing trade war. As the world watches closely, the implications of this plan could reverberate across global markets and supply chains. At the heart of this initiative lies a concerted push towards enhancing domestic capabilities, particularly in technology and manufacturing. She recently emphasized China has become the world's #1 manufacturing country, highlighting the nation's ambition to not only maintain this status but also to innovate and expand its industrial base. This newfound focus on self-sufficiency is a direct response to the disruptions caused by trade conflicts, particularly with the United States, which have laid bare weaknesses in China's reliance on foreign technology and components. The plan aims to strengthen sectors identified as critical weaknesses during the trade war. For instance, the semiconductor industry has been a focal point, as China seeks to reduce its dependency on foreign chips. According to industry analysts, the initiative is expected to allocate significant resources towards research and development in this area. China's investment in semiconductor technology is not just about catching up, it's about leapfrogging into leading positions in key technologies, noted a market expert. Additionally, the government's strategy includes fostering innovation within its private sector. Recent legislative changes aimed at promoting private enterprises signify a shift towards a more collaborative approach between the state and private businesses. This is an acknowledgement of the crucial role that the private sector plays in driving economic growth and technological advancements. Moreover, Xi's recent visit to Hunan province has further underlined the urgency of self-reliance. During his tour, he reiterated the importance of building a robust domestic supply chain, stating that only through self-sufficiency can we ensure our national security. This sentiment reflects a growing consensus within the Chinese leadership that external dependencies pose risks to the country's long-term economic stability. As China embarks on this ambitious five-year plan, experts are keenly observing how these strategies will unfold and their potential consequences on the global stage. In particular, the focus on self-reliance may lead to a reconfiguration of international trade dynamics.
Some analysts warn that this could result in increased tensions, especially with countries like the United States that have historically influenced global trade patterns. Looking forward, the success of this 5-year plan will be measured not only by China's ability to achieve self-reliance but also by how it navigates the complex landscape of international relations. The coming years will be critical as China attempts to balance its domestic ambitions with the realities of a global economy that remains interconnected despite rising protectionism. As these developments unfold, the world will be watching to see if China's strategy can indeed turn vulnerabilities into strengths, reshaping its economic landscape for the future. In a significant escalation of geopolitical tensions, China has publicly urged former President Donald Trump to abandon his proposed Golden Dome missile defense project, citing its potential to provoke a new arms race and undermine international security. This call comes amid heightened concerns regarding the militarization of space, an issue that has gained traction in recent years as countries ramp up their military capabilities beyond Earth's atmosphere. On May 21, 2025, Chinese officials emphasized the strong offensive implications of the Golden Dome initiative, arguing that it threatens the security of all nations. A spokesperson for the Chinese government stated the security of all countries should not be compromised by unilateral military advancements. We urge the U.S. to reconsider this approach that could escalate tensions globally. This statement reflects China's long-standing position against missile defense systems, which it views as provocative and destabilizing. The Golden Dome Project, spearheaded by L3Harris Technologies, aims to create an advanced missile defense system capable of intercepting threats from various platforms, including potential orbital attacks. Proponents of the project argue that it is essential for national security, particularly in light of rising threats from state and non-state actors. However, critics assert that such developments could lead to a militarized space environment where nations are compelled to enhance their own defensive and offensive capabilities in response. The Pentagon has echoed these concerns, with recent assessments indicating that the U.S. military faces a readiness crisis in modernizing its forces amid rapid advancements by China. A senior defense official remarked, "We must adapt to the evolving threats posed by adversaries who are not only enhancing their terrestrial military capabilities but are also making significant strides in space. This requires immediate action to ensure that we maintain our strategic advantages." The juxtaposition of a proposed missile defense system and the ongoing modernization of Chinese military capabilities raises the stakes for international diplomacy and defense strategies. China's recent white paper on national security further articulates its strategic vision in a rapidly changing global landscape, emphasizing the need for peace and cooperation in space. The document outlines a commitment to preventing space from becoming a theater of conflict, advocating instead for dialogue and mutual understanding among nations. The implications of this situation extend beyond mere rhetoric. As nations invest in advanced military technologies, the potential for misunderstandings and miscalculations increases, raising the specter of conflict. The international community is now faced with the challenge of navigating these complex dynamics, balancing national security interests with the imperative of global stability. Looking ahead, the future of the Golden Dome Project and similar initiatives will likely hinge on diplomatic engagements and the willingness of global powers to establish frameworks that promote shared security in space. As the U.S. and China continue to navigate these treacherous waters, the coming months will be crucial in determining whether cooperation or confrontation will shape the next chapter in international relations. The outcome will not only influence military strategy but could also redefine the principles governing the use of space, setting precedents for generations to come. In a significant step towards easing ongoing trade tensions, a U.S. envoy recently engaged in talks with a senior Chinese official, marking the first formal dialogue since the two nations have faced escalating economic strains. This meeting, held on May 21, 2025, signals a potential shift in the diplomatic landscape as both countries navigate the complexities of their economic relationship that has been strained over tariffs, trade imbalances, and geopolitical rivalries. The discussions described as constructive by sources familiar with the meeting took place in Beijing and involved key figures from both sides. The U.S. envoy emphasized the importance of open communication, stating, "Dialogue is essential to address the challenges we face and to foster a more balanced trade relationship." Analysts view this engagement as a crucial opportunity for both nations to clarify their positions and potentially lay the groundwork for future negotiations aimed at resolving outstanding issues. Recent data highlights the extent of the economic discord. A report from the U.S. Census Bureau indicated that the trade deficit with China has surged over the past year, prompting calls from various sectors for a reassessment of trade policies. As the U.S. grapples with inflationary pressures and supply chain disruptions, the implications of a strained trade relationship with China become increasingly critical.
The envoy's visit underscores the urgency in addressing these economic challenges as both nations are economically intertwined,
with significant dependencies on each other's markets.
China's response to the talks has also been noteworthy.
State media reported a marked shift in rhetoric, suggesting a willingness to cooperate more closely with the U.S. A commentary from a leading Chinese publication stated a stable economic relationship with the U.S. is vital for global economic recovery. This sentiment reflects a growing recognition within China of the need to recalibrate its foreign trade strategies in light of both domestic pressures and international expectations. The backdrop of these discussions is a broader geopolitical context where both nations are vying for influence in an increasingly multipolar world. China continues to expand its reach through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, while the U.S. is reassessing its foreign policy strategies under the current administration. The outcome of this dialogue could have far-reaching implications, not only for U.S.-China relations but also for global economic dynamics. Looking ahead, the success of these talks may hinge on both sides' ability to navigate complex issues including intellectual property rights, market access, and environmental standards. The stakes are high, and as both nations prepare for future encounters, the focus will likely remain on finding common ground. Experts suggest that continued engagement will be crucial in fostering a more collaborative economic environment, and the world will be watching closely to see how this pivotal relationship unfolds in the coming months.